Hi, this is Corey Johnston, and today's lesson is going to be a continuation of a previous lesson from Daniel's 7th chapter. We made it all the way up to the 15th verse, so we're going to take it from there and all the way on to the finish. We just want to briefly review what we already read in this and discussed in greater detail in the video with that name, chapter, and number designation. Read that in the first year of Belshazzar, he was the final king of Babylon, whose ruin we read of in the 5th chapter. So this is chronologically antecedent to the event of which we read in the 6th chapter, where Daniel's now under the Judeans are now under the control over the Persians who conquered the Babylons, and we can read of his fall from power in the 5th chapter. And he had a dream and a vision. Dreams and visions are two revelatory communications. One is conscience and entails a visual element. They see something as opposed to merely hearing. It's just a voice. They see events transpire. And this one took place in a dream. Dream is not the usual or ordinary means of revelatory communication, at least not anymore. But during the Old Testament time, it frequently was. And the foundation of the prophecy that we read of in the 2nd chapter is significant. So there we meet a statue with a golden head that's representative of Babylon, the current ruler. Here he's likened to a lion in verse 4. And then we also read of the chest of arms and silver. This is the Medo-Persians, the empire which would displace Babylon. They are likened to a bear in verse 5. And then we also read of the belly and thighs of bronze in Daniel 2. This is representative of Greece, the Greek empires. They are likened to a leopard in the 6th verse of the 7th chapter. Then we read of the leg of iron. They are Rome and clay feet, and they are likened to a fighting beast, fearsome and exceedingly strong. And many interpretators, and I'm one of them, question to what extent this is Rome. This is probably the end-time anti-Messiah, the new Babylon, the one world government which has yet to come, because it was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns, and it's from one of those 10 horns that the anti-Messiah will rise and rule. And this ultimately rules. Now this trajectory or anticipation of the geopolitical hegemony, battle of power, balance of power struggle, is much of what we read of in the 7th, and also in the 8th we read of Greece and Persia, likened respectively to the ram and the goat. Chapter 11 and 10 pertains to much of the Greek history. But here we also read important things pertaining to the Ancient of Days. Verse 9, I was looking until thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days was seated, and his garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like clean wool. His throne was flames of fire, his wheels burning fire. So the Ancient of Days is the eternal one. That is Elohim and Elohim alone, and an attribute of omnipresence means that he is literally simultaneously in the past, present, and future at once. So we exist in time. He exists outside and above and beyond the time that he created, but sometimes he does dramatically intervene to liberate peoples or to reveal secrets, such as he's doing to Daniel here. And we also read that word in another significant one in the 13th verse. And I was looking in the night vision and saw one like the Son of Man coming down from the clouds of heavens, and he came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near it. And to him was given rulership and esteem and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and language shall serve him. His rule is an everlasting rule, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So the Son of Man is a self-reference that he himself resorts to, or is recorded as resorting to, some 82 times in the Gospels alone. alone, and he rules for 1,000 years, we read of in the book of Revelation. The entire world returns to its creator and rightful owner, and his rule is as eternal as the one from whom it comes. He is an eternal being, and his kingdom is incorruptible and indestructible, unlike every kingdom which comes before it, which eventually dies. So the 15th verse is the one we're going to open with. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was pierced within my body, and the visions of my hand alarmed me. So this is a physically exhausting experience. To see things in events of the future, it is more than an ordinary sight or spectacle, and as such, the weight of it all, the summation of all of its contents and ramifications, exhausts and tires a man and reduces him to lethargy. I drew near to one who was stood by and asked him the certainty of this, and he spoke to me and made known to me the interpretation of the matter. So one of the ones who's drawn near to him is Angel. He is surrounded by angels often in the book, both protecting him from the lions and also giving him. Gabriel is the author of the vision in chapters 10 and 11 we meet. And also, I think we meet Gabriel, one of the only two angels who is named, the other being Michael, the archangel. I believe both, if not Gabriel, at least, is mentioned in the book of Daniel. But Daniel in himself does not know the interpretation of what he just read, what we just briefly covered. Neither do we without external interpretation. So that interpretation is provided and recorded, but we just want to bear note that Daniel's vision was personally incomprehensible to the one who had beheld it. These great beasts, which are four kings which rise up from the earth. So they are kings of the earth, they spring from the earth, and as such, their kingdoms, they have a shelf life. They don't last forever. They rise and fall and die and decay and decline just like everything else on the earth. And that's just because it's from the earth, it has no shelf life beyond a natural one. Then the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom, and have the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. So there is a kingdom to come. It's going to come after all these fleeting, flickering, ephemeral, earthly kingdoms. It's going to be a kingdom of the saints, and the saints of the Most High, that means divinity, and we will receive it. We will live in it. It will belong to us. We will belong to it, and it will last forever. It will be eternal because it springs from an eternal one. It will be as eternal as the one who gives it to us, who shares with us unworthy creatures an element of his eternality and his eternal kingdom. Then I desired for certainty concerning the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, very fearsome, with its teeth of iron and its nails of bronze, which devoured, crushed, and trampled down the rest with its feet. So this is the one we read of in the 7th verse. Now this is more than merely Rome. The description is vivid and graphic and violent and vile and fearsome. So he's fearsome with teeth of iron, nails of bronze. He's devouring, crushing, consuming, trampling, running over everything in sight with its feast. And this is a grave mystery that he also requests certainty for. That's the second thing he requests certainty for. The first is we read of in the 16th verse, the great beast being the four kingdoms, and then their eventual replacement and extinction and expulsion by the kingdom, the eternal kingdom, the millennial kingdom. And concerning the 10 horns that were on his heads and on the other which came up before 3 fell, this horn which had eyes and a mouth which spoke greatness, whose appearance was greater than his fellows. So his appearance, the 10 horn that comes from his head, one of them is the offshoot from which the anti-Messiah will rise and rule. So from this remnant of the Roman Empire, of figments of which are left, for example, in the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, all he talks about is the need for one world government, and open borders and gun confiscation are all part of his one world design. So he is an agent of the anti-Messiah. But before, so this one is exceedingly greater and superior in appearance than all the others. This is the eternal king. distinct from the earthly kings. And I was looking, and this horn was fighting against the saints and was prevailing against them. So this anti-Messiah, this satanically endowed, empowered, and enabled man is going to unleash the 3.5-year tribulation during his 7-year rule. At the midpoint, he's going to order all sacrifices in the temple. The temple will be rebuilt, most likely in your and my lifetime. All the sacrifices are going to cease. Everyone is going to receive a mark of the beast, without which one cannot partake or engage in commerce with. There's going to be a tribulation, the persecution, the likes of which has never before existed and will never exist again. Many Christians will lose their head for their witness, but the martyr's crown does await them in heaven. And so he is prevailing against them through the 3.5-year period. It's going to be the most awful experience, unlike anything we've ever been called to endure as Christians. Until the Ancient of Days came, and justice was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came, and the saints took possession of the heaven. So the dramatic and miraculously intervening from the Ancient of Days, he comes with sword in hand to eliminate evil physically from the presence of the earth. And justice, he came originally as a lamb, he's going to come as a lion. So at first he came to save, now he's going to come to judge those who did not accept his hand and accept the offering of the way out that he provided when he came to the earth as a lamb. And he's going to give his kingdom to the saints. So what he conquers, he shares. It belongs to us because it belongs to him. He's the one who claims it. He's the one who conquers it. He's the one who gives it to us. So there is a price and reward for remaining faithful. This is what he said. The fourth beast is the fourth kingdom of earth, which is different from all the other kingdoms, and it devours all the earth, tramples it down, and crushes it. So this is going to be a total domination. It's going to just step on it on its feet, and it'll tread over it, much like we read of the fourth beast, trample down the rest with its feet. That's what this kingdom's going to do. This king and this conqueror, he's going to just overwhelm everything in sight, in his path, and crush it. And the 10 horns are 10 kings from the kingdom. They shall rise, and the other shall rise after them, and it is different from the first ones, and it humbles 3 kings. So of these 10, they're going to come in motion and in perpetuity and exchange and succession and dynastic replacement, one after the other. But 3 of them, we don't know which ones, are going to be humbled by all this. And it speaks words against the Most High, and it wears out the saints of the Most High. And it tends to change appointed times and laws, and they are given into its hand for a time, and times, and half a time. So this speaks of the end-time dictator, the anti-Messiah, now Antiochus IV, the wicked Sadducean king who ruled and realigned the appointed times and altered the laws, forbidding circumcision and sacrificed pigs at the temple to Zeus. Was a prelude to this man. So he was, there's usually an echo in each prophecy. It speaks of one who has already come and one who has yet to come. So we are still warned and have to worry about this one who speaks words against the Most High. He will blaspheme. He will have a God complex, which eliminates not only God himself, but any other God outside of himself. He is Satan's tool and creature. And the control and rulership of the earth is going to be given into his hand in a time and a half. So we know that for 7 years he's going to rule and inflict his injury. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away its rule, to cut off and destroy until the end. So even this global dictator is at the mercy of heavenly unstoppable forces, which he remains to the mercy of and bound to. And the kingdoms and the rulerships and the greatness of the kingdoms under all the heaven shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all rulership shall serve and obey him. So all the plans, all the schemes, all the conquest, all the bloodshed, all the military strategizing is going to be vain, meaningless, and as nothing in the end, in the final day, because the world, the ultimate ownership of the world is destined to return to its rightful owner and controller for a period of 1,000 years. That is the Ancient of Days, the Son of Man, the Messiah. He's known by a host and alternate variety of names, but he shares his kingdom with his saints, and his kingdom is as eternal as the one it comes, and every nation, power, and entity on earth will serve and obey him. So there's coming a day when every knee will bow, and every tongue will confess that he is who he is, and respond accordingly. Now, you may not bow your knee today, but there's coming a day when you will. You will be forced to bow your knee on that day when we must stand and be reckoned before him. Final verse, verse 28. This is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly alarmed me, and my color changed, and I kept the matter in my heart. So these visions, once more, we read early in the 15th verse, they physically deplete him. He was pierced within my body. Now he's saying my color changed, my countenance changed. There wasn't as much life and color by connection in his faith after beholding this awesome and terrifying and frightful vision. So to behold such a vision of the plan of the tribulation before it came, and also the triumph of the triumph of the Ancient of Ones, the triumph of good over evil, but what evil is going to be inflicted before the forces of good, personified in the Ancient of Days and the Son of Man, finally decisively conquer and triumph over it. But that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. Stay tuned until next time. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.